Hi, how are you tonight? I'm Roberta Colosino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator coming to you from Pompano Beach, Florida. I've got a couple of apologies to make before I get started. The first one is that I'm having to use my iPad again tonight, and while I've tried to turn some of the sound things off, I'm afraid that you-know-who on my iPad might speak up because sometimes he thinks I'm talking to him and he just butts in. And I don't know why he does that. I can't stop him, apparently. However, that's just what it is. I don't know what else to do about it. I've also got my camera on my left, which I've never done before, so that's going to be a little bit different for me, but I'm hoping it will all work out. All right, so I've been doing a series on backgrounds, and while doing the backgrounds for the cards, I'm still showing you cards the way I normally do using various stamp sets and so on, but focusing on the techniques as well. So tonight I'm going to do two techniques. I'm going to do watercolor background and alcohol ink background, and they have a similar but different look. So I'm hoping that you will enjoy those. I have no idea at the moment where my host code is for the month, but that is posted in the group 11 Lakes Stamper Creatives up under Featured. So it might show up here in the course of me pulling things out tonight, and it just might not. I'm honestly not sure. But we'll move on anyway and not worry about that. This will be probably my last live until I get back to New York and get settled in. Excuse me, I just noticed that one of my ink pads was open, and I hate when that happens because that means it dries out. There we go. So that means I'll be probably skipping this coming up Wednesday, next Wednesday, a week from today, skipping that, and then doing one for you the following Wednesday, unless I have time to chime in and do another one before that, but with a special 95th birthday party that I have coming up for my aunt. And Easter, I don't know if I'll really have time to get to that or not, so I can't promise. All right, I'm going to turn the camera down and we'll get started. Okay, hello Cheryl, how are you? Nice to see you. Well, I'm not really seeing you, but nice to have you here. Thanks for stopping by. Remember, if you're watching, please feel free to make a comment and say who you are and where you're watching from. That's always really nice. Okay, so I wanted to show you our Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and I had to apologize last week because I always take it right out of the package and put it in a folder so I don't have to be opening the package in front of everybody, and so you always get to see the paper but you never get to see the packaging. So we do sell this in the catalog. You can find this in my online store as well, and this is it. This is how it comes. It is, let's say it's 5 by 7. I think it's 5 by 7. And you get 10 sheets in here, and I don't remember how much it costs. Yes, it is 5 by 7, but I have, when I've run out of this, used other watercolor paper that I just happen to have on hand from an art class that I've taken here or there, and I do find the quality of this to be just extremely good. It's very, very thick, and it just seems to show the color very well, you know, more so than the pads of watercolor paper that you might buy at Walmart, let's say. If you went to an actual art store, art supply store to buy it, I'm sure you would end up doing better. But I do like this, and I do recommend it, not just because it's by Stampin' Up, but because I think it's a good product. All right, so there's a couple of ways to do this. One way uses a technique that I actually did last week or the week before, where I used my block as kind of a pad or a palette. So yes, you can use your reinkers for this. You absolutely can. Sometimes this is just as easy, sometimes it's easier. So this is Lost Lagoon, which I think I've said is rapidly becoming one of my favorite colors. The other thing that I've learned from watercolor classes that I've taken is that when you're using watercolor paper, and I don't know enough about every technique, and I'm definitely not an artist, but when you're using watercolor paper, it's a good idea. You sometimes have more success if you get your watercolor paper wet before you even start. I hope I have water. Yes, I do have water. So these are our water brushes, water painters. We've changed the name, and I don't remember what they're called currently. They come so that you can put water into them. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see, and because my camera's on the left, I'm going to do everything backwards probably. So there's water in here. If I tip it, there you go. I think you can see a little water bubble there. You can fill it up just by untwisting it. They come in a package of 3. There's this one, which is the wide bristle or the wide brush. And then there's one that's really kind of very pointy for more detailed work. And then there's another one that's kind of somewhere in between. So there's a spot that says push, and you push there and the water starts coming out. Now I will be honest with you, sometimes I keep a cup of water by me because it's just almost easier to dip it in a cup of water. This takes, you know, a couple of seconds and a little bit of patience, which I don't always have. Once it starts coming down through, it's not an issue. At the moment it's not cooperating naturally, because when you're doing anything live, that's when anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Yeah. Oh, and you know what? There's a tiny bit of green in here, so that's an issue. And I do not have, well, I'll just wipe it off on this. I do not have a paper towel with me. That's what I'm trying to say. We just finished dinner. I have a guest here with me in Florida, and so everything's been just kind of a little bit rushed and a little bit different than usual. So I can unscrew this, which will be easier than getting up and going and getting some water. And I'm just going to put some water right out of this onto the paper. That's just easier for now because I don't know why it's not cooperating with me. And then I'm going to screw the brush back on. These work opposite, so you know how you always learned righty-tighty, lefty-loosey? These are just the opposite. There's a reason for it, but I'm not sure I remember what the reason was. So now I'm getting this paper good and wet, all sizes, all along all the edges. Now being that this 5 by 7, and what I really need for a card base is 4 1/4 by 5, or not for a card base, but for a card layer, I really could get 2 of these out of that. So I'm going to take my ink now. And now that the paper is wet and the ink is wet in itself, and I'm getting a little more water. Oh yeah, now the water is just pouring out. Of course it is, right? There we go. So this is just a watercolor wash, and you could do it all one color. You could do it kind of an ombre effect. You could choose multiple colors. It really depends on what you're going for. But for today, I'm just going to show you how this works. It really does work much better if you get the paper wet first. That's pretty important. And I'm just picking up color from all over my block. And I don't mind at all if one section comes out a little bit darker than another. And all you need to do to lighten it up is to give it another squeeze. Yeah, so now it's working. So I don't know why it wasn't working before, but it's working now. And if one spot is a little bit darker than another, I don't mind. And if you wanted an ombre effect, then you would do that deliberately. So I would saturate my brush with color up here and get as much of the dark Lost Lagoon as I can up there, and then start coming down and thinning it out a little bit, making it more watery. The other thing you can do if you get too much in a spot that you don't like is literally just dab it with a paper towel or a Kleenex or something, and it's almost like it acts like an eraser and it lifts up if you have more than you wanted. So now, because this is a little too dark for an ombre effect, I'm going to squeeze a little more water on there, and I'm going to just go out. And this isn't a perfect ombre. Like I said, I was just trying to show you as an example. You can do this on the regular cardstock, but when you get regular cardstock really wet and then brush over it again and again, it starts to pill, just like fabric sometimes pills, and that's not a look you really want. It also will curl a regular cardstock quite a lot, and it's very simple to fix that just by getting out your heat tool and drying it, or setting it aside and drying it. So that is the technique. And like I said, you could mix it with multiple colors, make it rainbow colors, make it, you know, colors that go with some theme that you're doing. You can make it any color that you really want. I am going to set that aside, hoping that it will dry a little bit. And then the second technique, okay, now I'm just going to wipe this off on there, just to get that off of there. You can use your stamped chamois as well. And now I'm just going to fold it over so it's not all wet. I've got a plastic placemat under here. I've got a silicone mat under here, which helps me with my stamping and also helps me keep my table clean and dry. So we're just going to fold that in half, and then we're going to get on to the next technique. So for the next technique, I need some isopropyl alcohol. This one I love because it actually comes in a spray bottle. I bought it at Walgreens. It has to be at least 91%. And I got an education in alcohol because I did not know that alcohol came in all these different percentages. If you buy like 70% or 75% or 80%, I don't know all of the different percentages that it comes in, but if you buy it at one of those percentages, it really won't work. And you know, you hear people tell you that all the time, and then you try it and it works just fine, and you say they're full of it, they don't know what they're talking about. But in this case, they honestly do. I found it, I bought cheaper alcohol, it didn't work. So I did recently buy the Lost Lagoon Stampin Blends. These are alcohol markers. And I'm going to just take a piece of our regular cardstock. Now the thing that makes alcohol different from water, and I'm sure you know this already, is that alcohol dries faster. It dries like almost immediately. So this is just a regular piece of our basic white cardstock. It's not the thick, it's just regular, okay? And what I'm going to do is grab a paintbrush that I really hope I brought back in here. If not, I will use one of my aqua painters, but without the water. So let me see what I've got here. Alright, to tell you the truth, I don't think I want the wide one. I'll tell you what works the best with this, and I don't think I have one of those here with me. What I think works really well is a stippling brush, or the kind of brush that you used to do back in the 90s when everybody was doing stencils, you know, stencil borders in their houses, in their bathrooms, whatever. That type of brush, that I call it a stipple brush, that brush works really well for this technique because it's kind of stiff. But of course I'm not going to find one of those here, so I'm just not going to worry about it. So I'm going to take an older water brush that I have, and what you're going to do is you're going to take different colors. So I am going to get other colors. So I've got the Lost Lagoon. I'm using the brush end, the one that looks like a paintbrush itself, and I'm just going to make like gently, you don't want to bend the tip on this, so I'm kind of holding it sideways. I'm just going to kind of go around and make some of these scribbles. I don't know any other word for it, there's nothing fancy about them. I might choose to make a longer one somewhere along here, maybe a really small one somewhere along here. I used the dark Lost Lagoon, that was the dark. And now I've got this has to be Berry Burst, because I got some of the new core colors. So this is no, that's the light. I think I want the dark. I feel like I remember the last time I did this that it worked out better with the dark. So this is the dark Berry Burst. And I'm going to do the same thing now. I'm just going to do a little scribbling. Maybe over here, I'll make this one a little bit longer. Do it again here. I don't know if I want to leave too many white spaces between the scribble. I'm not sure if it matters. I've done this before, but it is a while since I've done it. So there we go, and I'll maybe put another small one here and a small one here. I definitely would like another color. I'm thinking, do I have, yes, how about a yellow in there? I think that might be a nice addition. So this is the Lemon Lolly, and I'm using the dark Lemon Lolly, and again I'm using the brush side. So, and it might be that it's best, you'll be the judge when we finally do this, it might be best to use a lighter color more freely, so have more of your lighter color than of the darker colors. Now, if you don't have a spray bottle of alcohol, or you don't feel confident in using it because it might go all over the place, you can just put rubbing alcohol in a small glass dish of some kind. And then you can dip your brush into that. And had I brought a small glass dish in here with me, I might do that myself, but I did not. All right, I'm thinking at some point I might want to add a little bit more of the berry burst, but we'll see. So here's my brush, and so there's two different things. If I spray with this, I'm going to get a different effect than if I dab with the brush. So we might do two of these so you can see both effects. So maybe what I'll do, because no, I did not bring a little dish, but you know what, I've got this right here. So how about if I spray some alcohol on that mat? I don't think that will hurt anything, she says, hopefully. And then stick my brush in there, and then just start kind of dotting, dabbing, whatever you want to call it, with the alcohol. And I have to be honest with you, I'm not seeing the effect that I want, and I'm pretty sure 91 was the number. You could have more, but you could not have less. So I'm not seeing what I want there at all. So I'm going to spray. Of course, this happens to us demonstrators all the time. If you watch other ones, I'm sure you've seen when they do something and it just doesn't work the way it was supposed to. So you're seeing it kind of spreading a little bit, but it is absolutely not doing what it's supposed to do. I'm also wondering, this is not really old. I bought it just a couple of years ago. No, it's not even outdated, so it's not that. And of course, I don't have to worry about my paper getting saturated. So now I'm just wondering, what if I do like some swirls? I really want to spread it around. I don't want to see those marks that we're seeing, and you shouldn't. So something's, to be honest, something's not quite right here. What is that expression? Something's rotten in the state of Denmark? I don't even know what that means, but it is supposed to blend so well that you don't see any of my squiggle marks. Now this is certainly a different effect. You know, you are getting something here, but no, I'm not happy with it. So what I'm wondering, now I'm curious, so I have to keep exploring. The alcohol ink, by the way, will seep through paper, so don't put it down on something you don't want to turn that color. I'm going to get another card front out of here, because now I'm curious. And I'm just wondering if this is the thick Whisper White, and I didn't get that on purpose. I don't know that it makes a difference. But what if I just take the Berry Burst and just do 2 squiggles, maybe 3, and then try immediately applying the alcohol. Nope, I'm still not seeing it. So I've got to show you something, because I know I have it in here with me. Oh, I'm praying I have it in here with me. I know I brought it in here. Oh, here it is. So here is, oh, you know what? Hold, please. In realizing what I was just going to show you, I realized what might have been the error of my ways. So hang on just a second. I know I've seen people do this on cardstock. However, I'm not going to do it on cardstock tonight, and I didn't plan on doing it on cardstock. I planned on doing it on our vellum cardstock. So I want you to see that. So this is our vellum cardstock. It's 8.5 by 11. It's not super thin like you might expect some vellum to be. It's actually quite sturdy. You get 20 sheets in a package, and again, it's not too terribly expensive. So I have some leftovers in here of other ones that I've done, but we'll still do another one. And these were solid colors, so I have one that was a green. You see how that's blurred together, how much nicer that looks than what I just did. And this one was just purples. And you can see, I think you can see, but it's down. What I did was I cut out butterflies from this, because they just look beautiful as a butterfly with that type of a pattern. Or I'll cut out a flower with them. So I always save my scraps, because there's always something that I can do with them. Okay. Sorry. Hi, Cheryl, and hi, Mary Kay. I forgot that on my iPad I have to swipe left to see my comments. My apologies. All right, so on the vellum cardstock, we're going to try that again, and then I'm going to have to go back and remember how it worked on regular cardstock, because I honestly think it did. Sometimes I just make stuff up. Like in my head, you know what I mean? Like I'm not intentionally lying to you, but sometimes I just get an idea in my head and there it stays. So maybe I'm wrong about that, but I thought you could do it on white cardstock as well. So we're going to go back to using those same colors. Just pretend that we haven't done this whole thing already. No problem. And I am using the dark colors because I just think they work better. And then the dark lemon lolly. And I'm going to try to like almost fill in some of the blank spaces. So once we get this with the alcohol, it will kind of spread out so it doesn't matter too much. I'm not going to try to run over the other colors with the lemon lolly, but I'm just going to kind of get inside them. I don't want to get, you know, bright berry burst onto my marker, although I'm sure you could get it off just by wiping probably. But I'd rather not experiment and ruin a marker if I can help it. So we're just going to do that for now. And then I'm going to come back in, spray a little more alcohol, come back in with my brush and start dabbing. And oh, look at that, it's working. Okay. So, I don't know, some of you have told me how much you like my mistakes, so we're hoping you like all of my mistakes. And seriously, there are people who say things to me like, oh, well, you're a professional. I'm absolutely not a professional. I'm not even sure, well, there is such a thing as a professional crafter, because those are the people who sell their products, like, you know, who've got their products with their own names on them. I sell Stampin' Up! Products, but I don't have any Roberta Colosino products. There are no products with my name on them. But I do this a lot. I do it more than the average person, but, you know, we all make mistakes, and I, as you can clearly see, am more than capable of making mistakes myself. So it's starting to spread out. I still feel like I'm not getting quite as much spreading out, so I'm going to have to look next time I'm at the store and see if there's something a little higher than 91%, but I was told 91% would work, and I know I've used this one to create those ones that I just showed you a minute ago. So you can see that happening. So what I can do now, if I decide, you know what, really the Lost Lagoon kind of got buried in there and I'm not seeing so much of that. So maybe I want to see some more Lost Lagoon. So alcohol dries pretty quickly, like I said. I could hit it with the heat gun, but I think I don't need to. I'll just shake it a little bit. And I'll put a little more Lost Lagoon here, and maybe some in the center here where there wasn't much, and maybe another little dab over here amongst that yellow. And then come back in with some more alcohol. And start dabbing those spots, but I'll go over some of the others as well. And again, you can do this with just one color, which is what I did with those two scraps that I just showed you. This one, for some reason, is just not blurring out the way I'd like it to. So I'm just going to kind of hit it with a little brushing instead to spread it out a bit. The more you brush it, the lighter your color will be. If you just dab it, your color will be more intense. And since I've got some of that berry burst on my brush, I'm just going to come down here in the bottom and try to fill in some of the white spots so that there isn't any white showing. So there you go. So that makes a nice background as well. This, not so much. Like we're gonna forget you saw that, okay? We're putting that away. Never happened. This is much, much better. And what's nice about it is that it has some translucency. So if you were to have kind of a neat stamped image behind it, well, let's just take one of my stamp sets that's sitting here. So pretend that this is actually a stamped image on paper, and you put it right up over it. You're going to see that, but kind of like as a shadow through there. And I think that's really pretty. So you can see what I mean. You could see that through there. With words, I don't know that I would hide the words because they would be harder to read, but a nice clear image like these and the gorgeously made stamp set, they seem to come out very well. So I don't have any problem doing that. So now, I don't remember how big this particular piece was, but it's like 90% dry already. It's almost dry. I'm going to flip that over again and just get myself a slightly cleaner surface and use this paper to mop up that alcohol. It's starting to smell like a doctor's office in here, you know what I mean? Okay, so we could definitely make a card out of that. I did real quick want to show you, but only if I can find them. Oh, here they are. Good grief. So this is one of the backgrounds that I did last week using a background stamp. Okay, so that was one of the newer background stamps, and of course I didn't bring it out here with me, so I can't remember the name. And then I also used, which I'm really liking a lot, these dies, which are called the Nested Essentials dies. These are in the annual catalog. And please remember that that annual catalog is going away at midnight on April 30th, and things could start selling out as well. So if there's anything in the annual catalog or even in the spring mini that you think you would like, now is really the time to get them. So I used those, and I really do like those a lot for the sentiment. And the Wishing You Everything Wonderful comes from the Charming Sentiments set. Now this is a set that has the dies that match it, so you don't have to fussy cut them out if you don't want to. But in this case I didn't do either. I didn't use the die and I didn't fussy cut it, I just stamp it like any other set. And you can certainly do that. So if you want to save the cost of the dies, you just buy the stamp set. This stamp set is carrying over to the 2024-2025 catalog, and I know that for a fact because I was on stage in Houston this weekend and they told us. This card I made using the Ray of Light background stamp, and this stamp set, which it's called Good Feelings or Feeling Good, it's retiring. And I love this stamp set. It has nice, large, bold sentiments. I think there's only 4, maybe 5 sentiments, but they're all fairly large. That one is retiring. So that one you really need to get. And then this one, where the background was made just by stamping tone on tone. So Parakeet Party cardstock with Parakeet Party ink. And then putting the Easter eggs from the, what's it called? I want to say exclusively eggs, and I know that's not right, but something like that. It's kind of a play on words. Anyway, that is the bundle. So I just wanted to show you those because I've been kind of delinquent as far as posting pictures goes, because I've just been a little bit busy. So maybe tomorrow I can get to posting pictures. I just don't know. Okay, so I did Lost Lagoon on there. I did Berry Burst. I happen to have a Lost Lagoon card base here, so that's what I would use. Now I could put this on full size and have it cover the whole thing, but I don't think I want to do that. And maybe I wouldn't mind getting some Berry Burst in there either. So let's just take a look and see what I've got here on my desk. First of all, let's get some Berry Burst. Yes, let's get some Berry Burst, she says. Is that one piece? Okay. And we will, I don't know, some people can use their cutters upside down and sideways. It's just not my gift. I can't do it. I can't make it work for me. What can I tell you? All right, so I'm going to cut this one at 4. I put a new blade in my cutter today, so I'm really happy with the way it works. If you start getting rough edges, you can hang on to your blade a little bit longer and not get rid of it and use one of these to file off the rough edges, but after a while you just really, really need to get a new blade. And they come in packages of 4 and they're not too expensive. I've even taken a sheet of aluminum foil and made a few cuts with that, and then a few cuts with, what do you call it? 4x5 1/4 with wax paper, and that gets you like a little bit more life out of a blade, but it comes to the point where you do have to replace it. And just bite the bullet, because you'll get really annoyed if your cardstock is being cut all wonky. So now this Berry Burst will be the first layer, and so to use this for the next layer, I'm going to cut this one by 3 3/4. And I'm going to take a little bit off of each side, because there are these sides that really didn't get cut or didn't get so much dye on them or ink on them. So I'll take a little bit off each side. So 3 3/4. That's the next layer if you're going down by 1/4 inches. should also mention, now that one's kind of pretty, so I might save that for the inside of the card for a decorative piece. So 3 3/4 by 5 is another nice layer size. 3 3/4 by 5. I'm going to take a little bit. Oh, because this is no, this isn't 7. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit off of here, off of this end, just a touch. Vellum cuts a little bit differently, and when you're using our cutter, some people I think are really like pressing down, thinking they need like muscle strength to make their cut. You do not need muscle strength to make your cut. Just push it. Just push it. And I always go backwards over it again. You don't have to do that. I do. I don't know why. But you do not have to press down, especially if you're just doing one piece of paper. All right, so I'll get the rest off of this end. And now we have 3 3/4 by 5. Put that over here. Get my cutter out of the way. And bring all this back in and get my glue. So I'm sitting here and my color coach is sitting right next to me, and I'm wondering what my color coach says about mixing Lost Lagoon and Berry Burst. Never really thought about it, to tell you the truth. You know, I put these in color families, but I almost think it would be easier to find if I put them in alphabetical order, wouldn't it? Why, yes, it might. So Lost Lagoon is, I forget what color family that is. Well, maybe I won't worry about what the color coach says, because sometimes I do just kind of go off the reservation and do my own thing. But I'm curious. Oh, I'm just not going to find it because I'm looking for it, right? Isn't that how it works? You don't find it when you're looking for it. So you can tell me what you think of this color combination. Is it a no-no or is it okay? If you're new to me, this weird thing that I do with the wiggling is a way of kind of getting the cardstock to move over a little bit if it's uneven without lifting it up and risking tearing something, and it seems to work because you always have a little bit of wiggle room with the liquid glue, which is why I like it, because with some of the other adhesives, once it's down, it's kind of down, you know, and then you rip it up and you make a mess. Now, glue will show through vellum. Some people say the Seal Plus doesn't show as much. Some people use a glue dot, but it does show through. So one of the things that you can do, and right now this is curling a little bit, but if I put it under something heavy for the night, it would be flat by tomorrow. So what I could do instead is decide that I'm just going to put the glue to hold that down under one of my sentiments. I even made one of these in vellum, but I don't think I want vellum on vellum. And this circle is actually bigger than I remembered it being. I don't even know if I have a sentiment nearby that's big enough to not make that circle look silly. Although, wait a minute, where there's a will, there's a way. Hang on. Let's see. All right, here's what I'm going to do. So one of the things that I have that is not new, it was in the spring catalog last year. It was a $1 Million Achiever stamp set, and it carried over. And I didn't buy it and didn't buy it and didn't buy it, and finally said, I gotta get that thing. The punch was out of stock for ages. Is the Layering Leaves stamp set, and there was a punch that went with it. And this is the, this stamp set was designed by, I can picture her, but her name is escaping me at the moment. What the heck was her name? It'll come to me when I stop thinking. And it came with a punch. I love punches like this, and we had a sprig punch which retired, and the nice thing about a punch like this is that this one in particular punches out 2 different things, and I think that's just wonderful. That makes me very happy. So let's say I have a scrap of Berry Burst, because this one over here looks to me like it could be flowers, but sometimes I don't even care. You know, it doesn't matter to me if it's pretty and it makes me happy. Okay, this is my first time using this punch, so truth in advertising, sometimes when they're new, they're a little sticky. Okay, so yes, I had to put some muscle into that. And I know people who use these punches and will stand up and press it because, you know, some people have arthritis, some people just don't have a lot of hand strength for one reason or another, so sometimes they need to do those things. I've got another piece of Lost Lagoon here, which of course I can't find a scrap, so we'll just make a scrap. And I won't take off a lot, so I'll still be able to get a card base and or a card front out of this. Let's see if that will work or not. And we'll do, let's see, if I put it in this way, then I can really just get the greenery part of it, not the part that might look like a flower, and cut that. Yeah, already it was better on the second try. And then I'm going to slide it down and do it again. Boy, I cut this just the right width to get away with this. I'd like to tell you I planned it that way, but nope, I didn't. It was just a happy coincidence. Dumb luck, as they may call it. So again, this is called the layering punch, the leaves punch. I forget what it's called. My apologies. But it's in the annual catalog. And I think that one is a good candidate to possibly sell out, to be honest with you. How about some lemon lolly? And I feel like I do have, oh, that's Daffodil Delight. I don't want that. Well, I thought I had a scrap of lemon lolly, but apparently I don't. So we'll make a scrap. What the hey, right? We'll make a scrap. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to punch out of a corner of this, and then I'll decide how to use what's left at some point. So I'm going to put this down. This is definitely a way to do this. Even though this is where the picture is, if you put this in this way, you honestly can't tell if you're lined up or not. But when you flip it over, you can see if you've got what you need to get, that you don't have any white spots, and you don't have any spots where, my guest must be wondering what I'm doing in here, that I'm making all this noise. I basically threw her out of her bedroom for an hour. All right, so then let's take one of the sentiments from here. Let's take sending hugs. I like that. So this is a photopolymer stamp. As you can see, I have never used these. I've not used them yet, haven't even broken them out. So if you remember what I like to do, I like to prime them. That's just my word for it. It's not Stampin' Up's terminology. I've never heard a Stampin' Up employee suggest that people do this, but several demonstrators have said that they do it and they find that it's very helpful. So I think I'm going to use the Lost Lagoon ink to stamp with. And what I'm going to do, so let's do what I call a dry fit first, just to see what I have in mind. So I'm thinking that because this circle is kind of ginormous, that I'm just going to put some of these on the bottom, which are pretty, and they reflect the colors in the technique here. Maybe I don't need that one. And then maybe, I don't know if I want one of these or not, but maybe. So the idea is that I'm going to want to stamp towards the very top. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stamp my sentiment, as close to the top as I can get it, where it will still be wide enough because the circle, you know, gets narrow at the top. All right, since I've never used this before, I am going to stamp it and smoosh it. I'm going to ink it up, stamp it, and smoosh it. Okay. This is a technique that I learned from Donna Gray, who was a Stampin' Up demonstrator in New South Wales, Australia. That I can remember, right? But I can't remember the name of the punch that I'm using. Like, I practically could tell you her address. How ridiculous. The things I remember versus the things I don't remember are just crazy. Right? And then I'm going to clean it off. And now I feel like it's been primed. So the belief that some people have is that there's some type of a film on the photopolymer stamps when they come out of the manufacturing process, and that film keeps you from getting a good stamp the first couple of times that you use it. So if you do this, The theory is that you will get a better image, and we'll find out in like 2 seconds, right? So as high up as I can get it, and I always hold it down for a couple of seconds. I'm not pressing with all of my might, but I'm just holding it down so it has time to suck in. So that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. If anybody can tell me why my iPad has not figured out yet what time it is since the time change, I'd be very curious to know, because I just have no idea why my iPad has no idea what time it is. I was getting new tires on my car the other day, and I thought I was showing up an hour early because I looked at my iPad or something. Whatever I looked at it wasn't right. Oh, my car, the clocks in my car weren't right either, and they're supposed to adjust the minute I plug in my phone. So I don't know why any of that was happening. All right, so let's see. What we're going to do here is I'm going to glue this one on first, and I'm going to have it hang off the edge, and then we'll just trim it. All right, so I'm just really going to put a couple of dots on each leaf and a little bit on the stem, and this is why I love putting our Monotombo glue in these little fine point glue bottles. They had demonstrators at on stage who'd been demonstrators for a long time, 20, 25 years, who made oopses with their glues on stage, where a huge glob of glue just came out of their bottle. And you know, they were just like me. They took it all in stride. They kind of laughed and moved on. But again, it just proves it can happen to everybody. But with these little fine tip glue bottles that I got on Amazon, it doesn't happen as often, which is kind of nice, because first of all, you're wasting glue, and second of all, it is a little embarrassing when you're kind of supposed to know what you're doing, and instead you're just making a hot mess, right? I also have to clean up pretty quickly because my guest goes to bed really early, so I have to get her bedroom back to her in good shape and not looking like a hot mess. Okay, so this one's going to have to go off the edge a little bit too, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. This is just a good way, if you've made up your mind you want to use a certain die cut for your sentiment and it's too big, instead of giving up, just do something different. So fill in some way. You could also stamp flowers or whatever you wanted to stamp around the edges. That would be absolutely fine too. There are no rules. You do you. Whatever your imagination says is good is good. And if you like it, you know what? That's all that matters. Never, ever, ever worry about what other people think. The thing I like to tell everybody is that the people you give these cards to, unless they're card makers themselves, most of them aren't going to know the difference. So if there's a mistake that's just jumping out at you and screaming, someone else might never, ever notice that mistake, and they're just going to be happy that they got a handmade card from you. So just don't ever worry about that nonsense, seriously. Especially when you give kids cards, because they think some of our handmade cards are so cool, you know, depending on what they have on them. I gave one little girl one of the hippo cards, the hippopotamus wearing a tutu. I mean, what's cuter and more funny than a hippopotamus wearing a tutu, right? She loved it, and she didn't care at all if there were any mistakes. I don't remember if there were, but yet I'm sure there were. All right, so my comments have disappeared, and I can't seem to get them back. So again, my apologies. When I review things afterwards, it just keeps saying swipe left to get your comments, and I'm swiping, and even the ones that were there before are suddenly not there. I don't know why. I'm just trying to get these little ends down, not because I'm a perfectionist, but because you don't want them getting caught and ripped off going in or out of an envelope. So it is kind of important not to have things like just hanging off. So then the question is, do I really need these, or is that too much? I almost feel like it's not necessary. Maybe not that it's too much, but it's just not necessary. The other thing that could be done with a sponge dauber or a blending brush, and I don't have either one within reach, would be to just color the edges of these, maybe in the yellow, maybe in the berry burst, you know, whatever floats your boat. Either one is fine. So what we're going to do here is first I'm going to glue this down to here, and I'm going to put the glue on the back of this so I'm sure that I'm not getting glue here where I don't want it. This is two-sided too, so if you wanted a really muted effect, you could use the other side. I kind of like the brightness of that, so I'm going with that. All right, so this die has little holes in it, so I don't want to get glue in or near the holes because then that'll ooze out the other side and that will be messy. So we're just going to stay away from the holes. I'll show you what die set this is in a minute. And I'm going to put that down on here. I want to make sure that my words are straight, and they are. And then I'm going to turn it over and just give it a good push, which is a good way to get the glue on the little sprigs down there good if they're not, and get the glue onto the vellum really good as well. So now when I want to come over here, and I guarantee you if I put this under something heavy, I bet I could even do it now. Where's my bone folder? If I took my bone folder and gently did this, I could probably, yeah, it's working just fine. Just be sure you don't bend it, be real gentle. So I'm getting those corners to go back in where they belong so they're not sticking up. So since we don't want to put glue there, I'm going to put glue here, and I can put quite a lot as long as it's all hiding behind this circle. And I'll have to check, but I think it is true that the Stampin' Seal Plus, not the Stampin' Seal, but the Stampin' Seal Plus seems to be really hard to see through vellum. It seems to do a good job. But you don't want to have some glob of glue that's like really obvious to everybody, because that might be one of those things that people would notice, to be honest with you. So there we go. So you've seen the technique, you've seen the stamp set, and I'm still going to get those to go down one way or another because that will bother me a little bit. Plus, again, it could get caught in something. And then I can take a basic white card front. Most of these are big. I think I found one that's small. Let's see. There we go. And now, you know what? Here's what I can do. Instead of stamping something on the inside, because with sending hugs, I could put, hope you're feeling better soon. You know, something like I hope things get better soon, or, you know, you're going through tough times. Or you could just put, I'm sending hugs for your birthday. So that's why I like some of those semi-generic sentiments, because if you leave the inside blank, you can kind of make the card whatever you need it to be. Sending hugs to congratulate you, so it could be a congratulations card. Sending hugs, thank you, so that you're sending them a hug because they gave you something or did something for you or whatever. So instead of stamping on the inside of this one, you've probably already figured out where I'm going with this. See if I can get that on straight. Okay. And instead of stamping something on the inside here, which I still could do later on, I've got these 3 leftover pieces. Why not put them to use, right? So how about if we glue those on the inside? That would be kind of nice. I'm kind of feeling like I need to cough, but I'm going to try not to. Oops. I'm going to put that right here. And then I'm going to put one of them on one side of it. Sorry, I had to do it. I'm going to put one of them on one side and one of them on the other, and that's really pretty. You know what I could be using instead of my fingers, where I have to risk dropping them, is I could be using my tweezers, couldn't I? Yes, I could. And I'm going to overlap a little bit, which I think is fine. Excuse me. I suddenly have a tickle in my throat. I was just going to say it could be the air conditioning, and the air conditioning just shut off. That's funny. Oh, jeez. I'm going to end up dropping this yet. I know I am. Okay. And then this one would go this way. And if you do this, use tweezers, because they really come in handy for stuff like this. I kid you not. And there we go. Now we've got our outside, and I think that's really pretty. I hope you do too. Since I can't see your comments, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure nobody's saying, yuck, it's ugly. because I don't have people like that watching my videos. The people who watch my videos are positive people, right? So this is the die set that created these dies and the one I just used on that card. And this is, and I put it in backwards so I can't see the name, this is called the Everyday Details Dies. So it has circles, and then, wait a minute, it has other shapes. They've got to be on the other side or on another card. Let's take them out. It has 1, 2, 3 circles. So this is interesting. It has this narrow circle, and then the next one is not narrow. It's like a double row of circles. Well, you can see that. And then the next one is narrow, and then the little one is narrow and has a kind of a different design on it. And then it's got these two things, which I think would be very cool for like a bottom of a card, but I don't think it cuts out the strip. I think it just cuts out the little holes. And then you've got the rectangles, and you've got this, which is very cool. I need to play with that. Definitely, that would be a nice decoration for down the side of a card or even in the inside of a card. All right. So let's put those away. So that's what those are. Those are really nice too. And I think I'm starting, to be honest with you, to get a little confused between what is a online exclusive and what was in a certain catalog. I will also tell you that some of the things that are not going to appear in the new catalog are still carrying over, but they're carrying over as an online exclusive. Okay, I have Blueberry Bushel, I have Orchid Oasis, I have Parakeet Party, and I have White. So what do you think? Rachel Tessman, yes, that's her name, and I just saw your comment, Cheryl, thank you. Because I was drawing a blank, and I really know her name quite well. She was there. Some of the biggies were there. I have to admit, I felt a little starstruck. Like I wanted to go up to them and talk to them, and then I thought, that's just silly. You know, you're not going to ask them for your autograph. They're not the Beatles or something, you know. So I didn't, but then I was in the bathroom with one of them, Anna Hellman, and she had stepped back from doing videos because of some things going on in her personal life. She didn't qualify. She didn't say what they were, and that's because it's nobody's business but hers, right? I actually think I like the Parakeet Party better. So we're both in the bathroom washing our hands, and I looked over and I just said, I'm very, very happy that you're back. And then she started chatting with me and telling me, you know, sometimes we just have too high expectations for ourselves, and we think we have to do it all. And it was a very interesting conversation, because she's right. I think it's very true, especially for those of us who are mothers, especially when you're a mother of a smaller child. You do kind of feel like you have to do everything, and you don't. Well, sometimes you do. I don't think she's a single mom, but again, that's not my business either. So I'm going to cut this down to 4. Anyway, she was just very nice, very delightful. Continued to chat with me all the way out of the bathroom and back to, I think we were at lunch at that point, and back to lunch. She was chatting with me. 4 by 5 1/4. All right, I thought I'd get rid of some of the lighter stuff on the bottom. And these scraps are worthy of saving, because you could use those to cut out something with a die cut perhaps and make a background for another die cut. So like, let's say you cut this out and it was a little bit wider, and then you put it behind a sentiment strip like this, and you see a little bit of that peeking out. So there are lots of creative ways to use your leftovers. I don't save. My kids would make fun of me. They would tell me, Mom, are you going to save that? Do you want that, Mom? And that's when I just tell them to shut up, because I do not save scraps this size. I promise I don't. There's not a thing in the world I could think of to do with that. But, okay, I'm having second thoughts about this color too. I just don't like that combination. So I'm thinking now that what I'm going to do, hold please, I am going to make a Lost Lagoon card base for the Lost Lagoon background. What do you think of that? Okay, so I'm going to need, okay, hang on, because I really have to make sure now that I cut this, I have no idea what size this piece of paper is anymore. So I have to see if there's still an 8.5 side, and there should be. I never get this ruler right in the first place. Okay, so this is 8.5. So I need 8.5 by 5.5. 8.5 by 5.5, yes. Watch, it's going to be wrong. If you see me doing it wrong and you know it's wrong, just shout, will you? Because that's possible. Okay, remember, just push. Don't dig in, just push. And then I'm going to score it at 4 1/4. It was also really good to hear that there were a couple of presenters who are even worse at math than I am. And they were like kind of, in a couple of instances, sort of asking the audience to tell them what size they needed or what half of whatever was, and I just loved that. That made me feel so good. I really enjoyed feeling superior to them. So who else was there from the people that you guys might watch? Dina Rico was there. Her whole trio was there. Dina and Barb and Kelly were there. And they were also quite nice. Who else was there? Julie DiMatteo was there, the Paper Pixie. She was there, if you've ever watched her. I'll just keep talking here while I try to unclog my ink, or my glue rather. And I'm trying to think. There were some that like I knew I had seen, like I recognized their faces, but I honestly weren't sure who they were. That made me feel kind of bad. Erica Serwin was there, and she's always nice from what I hear. Actually, she and Rachel Tessman are both very nice. So they had a big party on was it the last night there, or the second to last night? Second to last night. And it was supposed to be an outdoor party, almost like a street party, and they were going to close down part of this outside area. But the weather was not looking good at all, so we had it inside. And they had a DJ and all kinds of incredible food, and people just danced the night away. We did not dance the night away because we needed to get someplace, but that was okay. Still a little cockeyed. So the watercolor paper is definitely a little bit thicker, so it needs a little bit more glue to hold it down, especially in the corners, and I'm feeling like that corner needs some attention, but I can take care of that later. So then I had thought, I did do this one circle in vellum, but I need to have something behind it to show through. So going back to, let's see, do I want to do a different stamp set or stick with layering leaves? I kind of like layering leaves, and I haven't played with it yet, so I'm going to play with it. So again, none of these have been used yet by me, and I think it is this. Where's the punch? And when you first get these photopolymer stamps, they are really sticky. They are really stuck to this. I think this punch punches out that. Yes, so this punch punches out that stamp. And here it is. This one, this little one here, gets punched out by this one here. Okay. And I think there's even another one that's the same in terms of punching out as this one, but it has a slightly different design on the leaves. Like this one is more solid with a vein in the middle, and this one looks like it has a slightly different pattern to it. I'm thinking, can you see that? Maybe not, but it does. It has a slightly different pattern to it, but I think it will still punch out with that. I don't know yet if I'm going to use the punch on this one or not. There's several of them. This one actually looks a little bit different too, so let me get all three of those out. And then there apparently are two of these, but I think they're identical. So, are they identical? Oh no, they are not identical. So there's there are 5 different things that that punch will punch out, and they're all slightly different. So that's kind of cool. Oh, and as I'm about to grab for a stamp block, I need to tell you that some of the stamp blocks are retiring. Now, a while back, they did a survey where they asked what stamp blocks you use the most. And I'm guessing that I was not in the majority with some of them because they're retiring the ones I like the most. So one of my favorite stamp blocks, and the one I use a lot, and I just bought 2 more of them because they come in really handy in my classes too, is the A block. And the A block, hang on, I've got my hand stuck in my thing here. The A block is this really, really small one. I think it's 1 inch square. But for all those little stamps that we have, the A block is great. Now for this particular stamp set, I'll admit it doesn't have a use probably. But the A block is great. And then they're also getting rid of the G block, which is the one that's like a sentiment for a sentiment, but for a smaller sentiment. And then we have this one that's for like a really big sentiment, and there's one that's in between. And now I'm trying to remember. So this one is definitely retiring. This one is definitely retiring. And one of these, I think, okay, it's not the H. The H isn't retiring. That's good because that's a really good one that comes in handy. The I block is retiring. And I'll tell you why I like the I block. What if I wanted to make a seam going across the bottom of this card, and let's say it went this way? I could put all of these stamps on the I block, like here and here, you know, kind of going in different directions. And I could put one here, maybe going that way. I'd have to move this over a bit, but I think you get the idea. So let's say I've got all of these on here, and I ink them all up, maybe in the same color, because I'm doing tone on tone, but maybe I can use my ink spots to ink them up another way. And now, bam, in one stamp, I've got a whole border. So that's what I've used this for in the past, along with like tall things like trees and whatnot. So I don't know why they're getting rid of this one. So you have until these disappear, and I'm guessing that there are probably some people out there who are ordering the blocks like crazy to get the 3 that are retiring. So it is the I block, the G block, and the A block that are all retiring. So keep that in mind when you're doing your last chance shopping, because they're going to be on that list, and they might be reduced, although something tells me maybe not either. It's so hard to tell what's going to be reduced and what isn't, you know? So I want to put this card back in this direction before I forget what I'm doing. I want to have some of these going like that. So I'm going to grab, I think I want some different colors this time. I think I'm going to do Shaded Spruce. And I'm going to stamp one of these. Oh, you know, oh, what I did. That's such a no-no, and that's because I'm using a block that's really too big for what I'm doing. And that's a no-no, and it's a no-no because that, if you're a rocker, if you rock your block, you're going to get that on your, where you don't want it, is where you're going to get it, where you don't want it. So I'm smushing that one because these are all brand new and I haven't used them yet. Ooh, my things are dry. The air conditioner here dries things out. Like my ink pads always need re-inking when I come home from here. All right, so I think I'll just do that once because I'm really kind of trying to keep going here. Oh yeah, I'm overtime. My apologies. Okay, so what did I say? Shaded Spruce? Yeah, Shaded Spruce. I've got that there. Maybe I'll even do another Shaded Spruce. And I know I said there were different ones, but I'm kind of, oh, that was so bad. Why did that happen? Well, I know why it happened, because I'm stamping on a card that's already done. Okay, this may be a fail, because this is the one thing I'm not good at, this lining it up perfectly. Dina Rico can do this. I swear she doesn't even bat an eyelash. She just does it. I don't know how she does it. Okay, that's not working. So pretend that it's working. Okay, pretend that it's working for now. And then I'm going to take another one. And it could be because I didn't smush enough. I was being lazy and I didn't smush enough. So maybe I didn't prime that one well enough. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do better this time. We're going to stamp and smush. We're going to stamp and smush. I'm sorry if the table's shaking. And then we're going to clean. And then I think I'm actually going to take a different color. I don't know, maybe garden green, old olive. I think old olive and Lost Lagoon will not cut it together. I don't think they'll look good. You know what might look good is Pool Party. Okay, so that one I stamped and smushed, right? So maybe we'll put one in there. Yeah, now much lighter, but it does go. They're definitely kind of in the same hue a little bit. And now I'm going to take this one and kind of go over the top of the other one, which really doesn't totally make up for what I did, but it's not bad. And now I'm just curious, so now if I put that over here, see, as long as it's glued down pretty flat, you're going to be able to see that through there. And then if I wanted to, I could add, maybe I need another darker color too. How about garden green? I think garden green would work. Let's try that. And let's try garden green with, let's see, I need another slightly smaller block. We're going to use one of those, and we're going to smush, and we're going to smush, and we're going to clean, and we're going to stamp maybe one right there, and maybe one right there, and maybe even one in the middle. So it's kind of an overlapping mess. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm loving this or not, but you know, this is how we learn, right? We play. So you might say, remind me never to do that. And if you learn something from saying, remind me never to do that, I'm cool. I'm absolutely cool with it. So I like that. I just feel like it almost needs to be darker. But on the other hand, I don't want to use this by itself anymore because it definitely needs something else. So I think I would put that down with the Stampin' Seal Plus, which, oh wait a minute, I do have it here. So let's see if this is true. Let's find out. You still wouldn't use a lot of it. And what we could do is try to put the glue, not here, but here, and put it on some of the darker leaves. And of course it's, there we go, not cooperating. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit there, we're going to put a little bit there, and a little bit there. So what's different about the Stampin' Seal Plus is that it comes off in little sheets, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It comes off just like in little separated strips. And I know I'm not saying that right, but I just don't know what to call it, and I don't think I can show it to you. And then, oh no, not there, shoot, that wasn't what I meant to do. Okay, we'll get that off in a minute. So let's just see if that works. Okay, I don't think I see them. Maybe the tiniest bit, but again, I'm not sure anybody else would notice that. So that's kind of cool. I do like that. I'm perfectly okay with that. So I won't go any further with any other additions to this. I probably will use, maybe I'll do what I said and use a sentiment like this right on the bottom, and I could have this running behind it, but then it's almost too similar to that, isn't it? So yeah, maybe not. But I think I'm going to put a sentiment there. I just don't know what one yet. So thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for putting up with my nonsense and my mistakes and whatever. Again, the comments have disappeared. I'm swiping, but nothing's happening. Oh, yes, I did see Patty Bennett. Yes. And yes, she hit $3 million in sales. And, oh, wait. No. Patty Bennett didn't hit $3 million in sales. Brandy Cox hit $3 million in sales. Patty Bennett just hit her million sometimes last year, and I think she was 1,100,000 at this one. I think I'm really right about that. Brandy Cox is like the first person to ever hit $3 million in sales. But no, I don't think that was Patty Bennett. And Brandy was there too. Brandy Cox was there. Patty Bennett was there. She was very nice. And some of these people look so different in person than they look on TV, you know, or on your computer, or whatever. They really do, to the point where you almost had to do a double take to recognize them. So, you know, so if you're in the Stampin' Up! World, if you're a demonstrator, I am, Cheryl is, Mary Kay is, you know, and you watch videos and you go to these events and whatnot, you kind of get to know these people and feel like you know them, but you really don't. And like I said, I got a little starstruck. I will admit, I did. I got a little starstruck. So of today's 2 cards, I think this one is a favorite. I think this one just maybe needs something darker behind it, and I'm not sure how I would achieve that other than to possibly use some of these. So that's a thought, but this one I'm really liking. All right, and I'm only doing 2 tonight, and I will see you all more than likely 2 weeks from tonight, okay? So thanks again, and have a great weekend.